How's it going, everyone? It's Chris with Quaternity of Dice, and this is Tavern Talk. But it's a bit different than our usual Tavern Talks, as you'll be able to tell immediately. It's just me. And there's a reason behind that. When we initially came up with the idea of doing our Tavern Talks, we had all decided we would all try our best to make ourselves available to run a production schedule of, recording our campaign and recording these and then editing and all that. But we also came to the understanding that all of us have lives. We have full-time jobs, some of us have kids, and it comes to the realization that sometimes it's not easy to have everyone together all the time. And so, with our campaigns, we want to make sure everyone's always there. With Tavern Talk, though, it's a bit looser. If one of us can't be there, or two of us can't be there, it's fine. But we had, kind of made this decision that if no one can do it, then, it gets kind of rough. And so in that decision, it, comes to me to film something, and I will do a solo piece for you guys. And that's okay. That's okay. I enjoy doing this, and I'm happy to do it for you guys. And so today makes it a bit interesting too, because the group is heading into something that's going to be different for the campaign. As you saw from the end of our last sessions, our session 3, or episode 3, the heroes are about to get into a fight. They're about to get into a combat scenario with a naiad and with some of her cohorts, a mage, and then all the people that she had charmed and around the area potentially could join in the fight. And so, with that in mind, I figured this would be a good opportunity to showcase what's different about this episode. And that is going to be the combat system. So up until now, there's been no combat, there's been no difference in the scenario. It's just been, you've been watching us go through the day-to-day lives of these characters. And now we get into a different mode of play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down. In the game of Pathfinder, specifically Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which is what we're playing, there are 3 modes of play. There is the exploration mode, there is downtime mode, and there is encounter mode. So brief description of the first 2. Exploration mode is what you've seen us doing all along. We go through, explore the world, showcase what's going on, and roleplay it in real time. This is the moment where roleplay is supposed to take its big shine. The players have a loose sense of time. They try to handle things in real time. And sometimes we have to do jumps. Like if they're going to be, traveling a long distance, we can jump forward in time to not have to roleplay every second of the travel. But mostly, time is kind of loose in these moments, and it's just it's an easier mode of gameplay. And exploration mode is going to be the thing you guys see the most. But it's not going to always be around. Of course, as I said, there's 2 other modes. There's downtime mode and there's encounter mode. Downtime mode is a bit slower with gameplay. Downtime is for the characters to unwind and pursue their interests without time really being a constraint. Downtime can last anywhere from overnight to a couple of days to even weeks or even years, if it needs to. During this time, players can handle picking up a craft or starting a business or learning new skills. And the biggest point of this is that time is really loose in downtime, much more than an exploration mode. Our third mode of gameplay, and final one, is encounter mode. Encounter mode is strict with time. The other 2 were loose, this one is strict. What we do is we go into a turn-based mode, where the players, have individual turns that they do during the game. And if there's any NPCs, whether they be hostile NPCs like enemies, or friendly NPCs that are part of the encounter, they also get to be part of the turn order. In most scenarios, the encounter is going to be combat, some sort of fight, but it doesn't have to be that way. An encounter mode, during an encounter, could be something as simple as trying to infiltrate into a dungeon or a prison to do some sort of interesting prison break. It can be a social situation as turn-based mode of a debate. But most likely it's going to end up being a fight. And so what they do is we would roll what's called initiative. And you go into the initiative order. And this is the way that the players and NPCs, hostile and friendly, are grouped into the turn. The gameplay takes place over a series of rounds, with each character in that initiative order taking a turn, and then when it gets to the last turn, it goes back and starts a new round over again, and it keeps going until the encounter ends. The way that characters determine their initiative is by making an initiative roll on the die, on a d20, a 20-sided die. Usually, the characters will roll a skill known as Perception. And the reason for that is the characters during a combat scenario are scoping the scene, trying to get a lay of the land and the lay of the enemies and see what's going on, as well as looking at like their standings with their allies and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to just investigate and perceive the scene in front of them. And so they will usually roll Perception. And then how things go with us, specifically here at this group, is I take them one at a time. I ask, what did you roll for your Perception? What did you roll? What did you roll? Until I have all of them down. And then the highest number rolled goes first. And then so on and so forth. The lower the roll, the further down the initiative order you end up being. The characters don't always have to roll Perception for initiative. They can roll something else. If right before a fight is happening, if one of the characters, let's say Zavi, who is our rogue, if he's sneaking up to a situation while the other two aren't, then he would roll stealth for his initiative, where the other two would roll their Perception because he's trying to be hidden. And he'd still get counted the same way as, whatever you roll for that initiative roll. And that order would still get determined that way, but it'd be a different skill that he's using. Any skill can be utilized, preferably as long as there's a distinct and, a reason that makes sense as to why that particular role is used, that skill is used. There's some that can be kind of difficult to put in, like medicine. I don't know why you'd be starting a combat encounter rolling medicine. However, there are other situations that would make perfect sense. If you're in a stressful situation where you're trying to help someone who's been badly injured, I might actually call for an encounter for that and have them roll to make sure they save that person's life. And that would make sense. In social situations, things like diplomacy or society might make sense to roll. Maybe even deception. In things like, going into an investigation, or an infiltration, something like stealth would probably be the preferable thing. But if you're trying to scale a wall, then they would roll their athletics to see if they can get up fast enough to start the encounter. But again, the players, I will usually call for Perception unless the players say, hey Chris, I think this would work better in this scenario. And as long as they give me a sound reason, good, roll that skill. I will try my best to make sure that if there is a skill that I personally think would work better for that particular character, that I mention it to them. But I might get it wrong sometimes, and that's totally okay. But with this combat scenario, it takes place over a shorter period of time. The round is supposed to be fast-paced. Even though it's split into individual turns, the whole entire round, no matter how big of a group of people there are, whether it be characters or NPCs, no matter the size of the grouping, the whole round takes place over a 6-second period. And it's kind of assumed that all the different actions and things that the characters take throughout that encounter happen all at the same time. But we do the turn order, so there's not just a bunch of chaos of everything happening at once. So each round is 6 seconds. And that will come into play whenever you see certain skills or spells that actually have time limits. So far, the spells that Kaya has used they've just done their work, and that's that. But in this scenario, in this combat situation, this encounter, it's gonna matter. If it says it takes place over 1 round, then that's it. After that current round is over, when it gets back to the next round, to her turn, that spell is over. However, if it says it takes place over a period of a minute, well, we know that's going to end up being 10 rounds, because each round is 6 seconds. And so 6 multiplied by 10 gets to 60 seconds, and that's where you get the minute from. Now, there are some spells that have absurdly high times as well, and that's a whole different story we'll get into another time. But during the course of exploration and downtime, the players don't exactly have limits on what they can do when it's them talking. And they try their best not to talk over one another, but there are no turns in exploration and downtime mode. So if they do talk over one another, it's kind of okay, but we try to be respectful and not do that. But during an encounter, there are a limit of things that the characters can and cannot do. So during the course of an encounter, characters have actions they can take. In fact, they get 3 actions. 3 actions per turn. Once you've used all 3 of your actions, there's nothing else that you can do. Actions can take the form of attacking with a weapon, casting a spell, interacting with an object on your person or right nearby you. It can be moving up to your movement speed, which is something you might have heard from our characters. Every character has a speed, and that is the speed they move during the course of a 6-second turn. For all 3 of our players, it's 25 feet. So each time they use a movement action, they can move up to 25 feet. Other things can be trying to tumble through someone's legs, which actually might cost 2 actions instead of 1. And that's where this combat scenario gets a little bit complicated, because most actions they can take are single action things. But there are some things that characters can do that cost 2 actions, or even 3 actions. A lot of spells in this game cost 2 actions. So if you were to move and then interact with someone, you might not be able to cast a spell if you're a spellcaster, so you have to pay attention to what's available for you to do. It gets really important in these stressful 6-second time frames. Now, obviously, yes, it's supposed to, the turn takes place over a period of 6 seconds, but the players themselves, above table in real time, aren't beholden to a 6-second rule. I'm not going to tell each player, you only have 6 seconds to tell me what you're going to do, and then that's that. No. They can take time to think of what they want to do, and think of what their actions are, and things of that nature. But overall, it's supposed to be a bit faster paced. This is also where hit points are going to become a major facet. This is where, during the course of a fight, enemies are trying to hit you. They're trying to take you down. Whether they're simply trying to knock you out, or they're trying to kill you. If they're trying to do damage to your hit points, and so you will see characters' hit points actually getting knocked down little by little. The other major focus that you have to pay attention to is the character's AC, or armor class. That's what AC stands for. That is the number that determines how easy or difficult they are to hit. And even enemies or other NPCs have this number as well. So whenever a character wants to do some sort of attack, whether it be certain spells or a weapon attack, or even a fist, because there are some people that can fight with their fists, they have to roll an attack roll, and they have modifiers that they can add on top of that. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, but that attack roll, if it meets or exceeds the person they're trying to hit's AC, then the attack goes through, and they roll their damages, which every weapon or spell has a damage die associated with it, or multiple damage die that you roll. That's how damage is applied. If they don't meet that AC number, the attack misses, and they fail. There could be, in some cases, if they have certain abilities or certain spells, there could be things called critical failures that can happen, in which you could get some a negative consequence if you miss. If a character rolls a critical success, though, they can do extra damage, in which that's great. That's what we want to see from the players. Obviously, the players don't want to see the enemies hitting them with critical hits. That's not going to be good for them. But, as it stands, per turn, the characters are beholden to their 3 basic actions. There are also some things called reactions. A reaction can take place at any time, not just your turn. However, a character only gets 1 reaction per round. A reaction is something that you do, as the name implies, as a reactionary take. In some instances, it might be if someone runs nearby you, you might be able to take a swipe at them. It used to be called Attack of Opportunity, and it's since changed names with the remaster, and now it's called Reactive Strike. Only one of our characters has that, and that's Orion Thane, the fighter. But there might be other things like providing aid, or trying to grab a ledge if you're falling off of it, and those can be taken as needed, whether it's your turn or someone else's turn. But again, you only get once per round. Now, with this system, it's a bit different than other systems where you do have this 3-action economy. So characters can do any 3 actions they want, and they can even double up actions as long as they have the room for it. Your movement, taking an action to move, is called stride. They can do that 3 times. And so 25 by times 3, they can move 75 feet. Then they can't do anything else besides the move. Characters can also attack 3 times with a weapon or a fist. Spells are a bit different, but that's a different story. But if a character attacks more than once, there's a penalty associated with it called the Multiple Attack Penalty, or MAP. And what that does is it applies penalties for each successive strike they take. If they try to do their first attack per turn, there's no penalty. The second attack, there's a -5 attached to their roll, and if there's a third attack, it's a -10 to that roll. So it can be, pretty bad, pretty devastating to have to get that far. There are other things that can change that number, like having an agile traded weapon or something like that, but you guys don't need to know all that right now. You just need to know the basics of what you're getting into. But beyond that, that's exactly how combats are going to go. And again, the whole scenario is just going to go with rounds of the characters working and doing their thing until the entire thing is over. Now, earlier I mentioned movement. So characters can move a set number of feet per movement action, per stride. And for the 3 characters we have, it's 25 feet. And so some may be asking, well, how do you adjudicate that? How do you do that? Well, here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to pull this up for people to understand and see. We use a map for people to see what's going on. One, it helps with characters kind of getting a lay of the land, seeing where they're at and where the enemies are at, but it also helps keep track of who they're able to see, who they're not able to see, who's still standing, who's down, but also environmental hazards. Is there going to be water in the area? Is there a wall that I can hide behind? Things of that sort. Okay, here you can see a little bit of how we do this. We use a map that is separated into grids, into a grid. Each grid, each little square in that grid represents 5 feet in any direction. So if a character wanted to, start off in this square here and move a few feet, maybe 10 feet down, they would move 2 squares forward, 5 and then 10. Now, in the books for Pathfinder, they mention a different rule for if you're moving in a catty-corner diagonally. And the rule is the first move is 5 feet, and then the next move is 10 feet, and the next move is 5, and then 10, back and forth over and over and over again. And the reason they're trying to adjudicate it that way is to make it mathematically make sense, so that going catty-corner, you're not moving further than you are going forward, or side to side, because it's just because of the way, angles work. But with us, we don't do that. It's just any move in any direction, whether it's side to side, or up and down, or even catty-cornered. It's all just going to be 5 feet per square. But we utilize this system here, and obviously this is a blank map. You can see it's just, it's all black. But what I can do is, this is just a map making software that I use, and I can make this look however I want. I can put grass on it, or I can have it be, you know, I can have it look like it's dungeon floors, or what have you. I can kind of put whatever I want there in terms of the floor background. I can even make water. The other thing I can do is I can add stuff like this. I can add terrain. I can add foliage. But we also use these. We use tokens for our characters. And so I have one of these for each of the characters, and I have one of these made up for each of the enemies or NPCs that be in play. And as we go through a fight, we have them start off somewhere on the map, wherever they want to be. And then, as they move, I can just select the little token, and I can move it anywhere on the map I want it to be. Wherever they decide we want it to be. And what we end up doing is, if you see across the top and the side of this map here, we have the grid laid out kind of like Battleship. We have the numbers across the top, or numbers down the side, and letters across the top. And so when a character wants to take any kind of movement or do anything, this helps with positioning. The players will tell me, hey, can you move my character here? Can you move my character there? And then I, on this end, can also move the characters around anywhere we want. And this is the system that simply just works best for us. Now, there are other ways to do this that's better. And that is by use of what's called a virtual tabletop, or a VTT. And honestly, we've been playing together for a long time, and we've been playing together online for a long while. And we kind of just decided that we wanted to stick with it this way. One, because we understand it and already know it. Two, it allows us to keep this camera set up here the way we have. And three, it allows you guys to get a better understanding of where we're going. If you are only listening via audio, this makes it better, because then you can kind of get a better understanding of where a person is in positioning if you can hear the setup. If you as a listener understand that we have the letters on top and the numbers going down, and we have the grid set up like Battleship, by knowing where other creatures are and by knowing where the players are, the characters, you can visualize in your head where they're at. It allows you to do what's called theater of the mind. So this way it just works easier for us. As we go along, we might bridge into a VTT eventually. Who knows? We're kind of up in the air about, a lot of different things. Obviously, as we're just starting out, the channel's going to change, the channel's going to grow, and it's going to be interesting to see how that, plays out. But as of right now, this is the scenario that we use. This is just how we're comfortable having it. But all that said, this is just going to be a very brief, I guess not very brief. This has not been very brief. It's been, 20, 30 minutes that I've been doing this. But this video has been mainly for people that have either never played a tabletop role-playing game, or specifically haven't maybe played Pathfinder, and wanted to get an understanding of how this is going to play out. Now, you'll have to see, obviously, with the next video, with next week, how this whole combat scenario is going to end up playing out. But at least this video, if you watch through it, gives you an understanding of how combat's different, how encounters are different. And of course, eventually you'll end up seeing more of me by myself, because obviously if we can't all get together for Tavern Talk, it's just going to be me, or you'll see me for some other videos where I'm going to break down, first off, the world we're playing in, give you guys a little bit of a crash course in understanding the world, and two, a video series where I talk about specific Pathfinder gameplay, mechanics, and rules, and things of that nature. Maybe even break into some of the Pathfinder lore that also applies to the world we're playing in as well. But overall, I hope you guys did like this video. I hope that it wasn't just me droning on forever. Uh, I have a tendency to do that. I quite understand that. Everyone tells me that I'm a bit too much of an encyclopedia at times with droning on and just describing things, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing this. This is my happy zone, so I will be glad to keep doing this any day, and I'm glad to do it for you guys. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And please, 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 if you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to ring the bell so you get notified when we have new videos coming out, and give us comments. Please give us comments on our videos. We want to interact, we want to be able to see what you guys are thinking of us and of our game, and of Pathfinder in general. So please go ahead and drop that on there. Don't forget to check out all of our social medias. It'll be linked in the description and in our end card. I do believe you see, like, you know, what ones we have active going on. But with that, I thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys, hopefully with everybody else, next time. Alright, see you guys. Have a good night.